everybody, how are you doing today? I am Mona and I'm happy to connect with you. Today, let's speak into a genius's life, a name in the world of science that has been permanently graved in our books of history. Now, after hearing his success story, I so wish and pray that you also get inspired, that you too are able to make imprints of your talent and discovery. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein has been one of the most brilliant scientists of all time. Born on March 14, 1879 in Ulm, Germany, he was the oldest child and he had one younger sister. Albert Einstein spent a lot of his time studying inventions of the time, researched a lot, and over time, his discoveries led the way to the invention of many other things, from television, garage door openers to DVD players. Now, Albert Einstein had some personal struggles too, and a slow start. It is said that when he was born, his grandmother said that he kind of looked thick, she said, which meant that he didn't quite look very smart. Einstein couldn't talk until he was 4 years old. He repeated words and sentences over and over until he was about 7 years of age. As Einstein was slow in learning how to speak, his parents even consulted a doctor. Now, he was quite rebellious for his age, In fact, one of his headmasters had to even expel him from school, and another one went on to say that he wouldn't do much in life, he wouldn't be able to achieve. Quite obviously, it is sure that we know that the opposite happened. But you know what? Perhaps those early experiences helped him to carve a reputation of his in later years. That was a reputation as a genius. Now, it is interesting to note that his initial slow verbal development made him quite curious about ordinary things such as space and time. Einstein first became interested in science when, guess what, his father presented him a compass at the age of 5. He was puzzled over the nature of a magnetic field for the rest of his life. Equally interesting it is to note that Einstein tended to think in pictures, more in pictures than in words. Some researchers at the time also were of the opinion that he had a form of autism. Now, Albert Einstein didn't quite learn to read until he was 9 years old. Although he loved learning, he did not quite enjoy school. He was quite creative. You might want to know that. He was quite creative and had fondness for music. He loved classical music and played a couple of musical instruments such as the piano and the violin. Despite his slow start, Einstein wrote his first scientific paper when he was just 16. However, it has been reported that even as an adult, Einstein was quite disorganized. He forgot appointments, and people noted that his lectures were kind of hard to follow. He was the classic absent-minded professor. Now, at age 20, in 1896, Einstein renounced his German citizenship and enrolled at the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich. Einstein demonstrated brilliance during his years at the Zurich Polytechnic, but owing to his rebellious personality and habit of skipping lessons, his professors did not quite give him a very strong recommendation. After his graduation in math and physics in the year 1900, Einstein spent 2 years looking for an academic job. He then just took up a clerical job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. Now, you know what? It was a blessing in disguise because the job turned out to be just perfect for Einstein, who was happy to work for a few hours in his office and then spend the rest of his day writing and conducting research. He looked into other people's inventions. Now, that was something very, very cool at that time. And he was curious about the inventions which had already been made. While he was there, he worked on his own discoveries and found out many things that became of great importance in the world of physics. It is interesting to note that in 1905, often known as his miracle year, the lowly clerk published 4 revolutionary articles that introduced his famous equation E is equal to mc squared and the theory of special relativity. Now, E is equal to mc squared proved that even the smallest amount of matter, basically the stuff which is everywhere, can be turned into a huge amount of energy. While the discoveries marked Einstein's entrance to the world of physics, he didn't quite win a full professorship until 1909. That meant it took Einstein 9 long years to get a job in academia after he completed his graduation. Remember, he graduated in 1900. Now, isn't that a long time? 9 years after having done your graduation, you don't get a job of your choice. But he didn't give up. He never gave up. This info is certainly of prominent importance. A solar eclipse helped make Einstein world famous. In 1915, Einstein published his theory of general relativity, which stated that gravitational fields cause distortions in the fabric of space and time. Because it was such a bold rewriting of the laws of physics, the theory remained controversial until May 1919, when a total solar eclipse proved the proper conditions to test his claim that a supermassive object, in this case the sun, would cause a measurable curve in the starlight passing by it. Hoping to prove Einstein's theory once and for all, English astronomer Arthur Eddington journeyed to the coast of West Africa and photographed the eclipse. Upon analyzing the pictures, he confirmed that the sun's gravity had deflected the light by roughly 1.7 arc seconds, exactly as predicted by general relativity. The news made Einstein an overnight celebrity. Newspapers hailed him as the heir to Sir Isaac Newton, and he went on to travel the world lecturing on his theories about the cosmos. Now, according to Einstein biographer Walter Isaacson, in the 6 years after the 1919 eclipse, more than 600 books and articles were written about the theory of relativity. Wow. Absolute wow. Let's celebrate the fact also that Einstein was a man of various interests. To quote one area which fascinated the maestro, in 1925, Einstein went on a walk with a young student called Esther Salomon. As they wandered, he shared a unique thought that crossed his mind. Einstein said, and I quote unquote, "I want to know how God created this world. I want to know his thoughts." Now, later on, Einstein moved back to Germany and experienced days of the First World War. He was a pacifist, meaning that he did not quite believe in war and violence. He was a pacifist. He did not believe in war at all. He believed that disagreements, if there, which I know are there, could be settled peacefully. Now, shortly before Hitler rose to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein left Berlin for the United States and took a position at the Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. But do you know what? His support for pacifist civil rights and left-wing causes drew suspicion, and it is believed that Einstein was actually spied upon by the American FBI, that's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The Bureau launched a surveillance campaign which lasted for around 2 decades. Agents listened to Einstein's phone calls, opened his mail, went through his trash, suspecting him to be a Soviet spy. They even investigated tips that he was building a death ray. Now, the project, however, was not proved even till the time of Einstein's death in 1955, but it is reported that his FBI file had 1,800 pages. Wow, quite a lot of investigation on him, isn't it? Now, we really don't know whether all that investigation had substance to prove what it believed. We really don't know much on that. All right, now, this bit is also quite interesting, that in the late 1930s, Einstein learned that a new research had put German scientists on a path towards creating the atom bomb. The prospect of a doomsday weapon in the hands of the Nazis convinced him to team up with Hungarian physicist Leo Szilard, who helped him write a letter urging American President Franklin D. Roosevelt to conduct atomic research. Though Einstein never participated directly in the Manhattan Project, he later expressed deep regrets about his minor role in bringing about the Hiroshima and the Nagasaki bombings. You know that the Second World War came to an end with USA dropping atomic bombs on 2 Japanese cities, Hiroshima on the 6th of August 1945 and Nagasaki on August 9, 1945. Now, Einstein kind of felt slightly responsible and had quoted later on, and I quote, "Had I known that the Germans would not succeed in producing an atomic bomb, I never would have lifted a finger." Though Einstein was not traditionally religious, he felt a deep connection to his Jewish heritage and often spoke out against anti-Semitism, which means hostile behavior towards Jews. He was never a staunch Zionist, that's one who believes in the protection of a Jewish nation. But when the first president of Israel, Chaim Weizmann, died in 1952, the Israeli government offered Einstein to take over the nation's second president. 73-year-old Einstein declined the offer. Einstein died on April 17, 1955, from an abdominal aortic aneurysm, creating a bulge in the main blood vessel running from the heart to the tummy. Now, it led to internal bleeding and severe pain. Einstein refused to undergo a surgery, saying, and I quote, unquote, "I want to go when I want. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go." He had requested that his body be cremated, but in a bizarre incident, Princeton pathologist Thomas Harvey removed his famous brain during his autopsy and kept it in the hope of unlocking the secrets of his genius. Now, after winning a reluctant approval from Einstein's son, Harvey later had his brain cut into pieces and sent it to various scientists for research. A handful of studies have been conducted on it since the 1980s, but most of them have been dismissed or discredited. Perhaps the most famous came in 1999, when a team from a Canadian university published a controversial paper claiming Einstein possessed unusual folds on his parietal lobe, a part of the brain associated with mathematical and spatial ability, revealing that the brilliant physicist had extra foldings in his brain's gray matter, the site of conscious thinking. Well, boys and girls, that was a peek into Albert Einstein's life. What a unique and thrilling journey the maestro had. Now, if there's one strong takeaway from his life story, it certainly would be that everybody has the caliber to be someone special, to be a game changer, to be a genius. Never ever get disheartened or demoralized with the initial setbacks. Anyone and everyone can make it big. You can all carve your future and write your own success stories. So be ready to dream. Be proud of the questions that cross your mind. Be a risk taker and take on the charge to explore and experiment and achieve and accomplish. My best wishes to you all. Till I catch you next time, take very good care of yourselves. Goodbye.
To receive such more educational videos, please subscribe and also share it with the people who are associated with education industry. Thank you.